Hello everyone, and welcome to Mind Matters. Today, we're diving into something really important and deeply personal for many people: how to heal from trauma and take practical steps towards mental recovery. It's a heavy topic, but it's one that needs to be discussed because so many of us have experienced some form of trauma, and learning how to recover is crucial for our well-being. Now, let's talk about trauma. It can come in many forms, whether it's a one-time incident or something ongoing. Trauma doesn't necessarily have to come from major life events like accidents or violence. Sometimes it can be the smaller, more chronic stressors that build up over time, like emotional abuse, bullying, or neglect. Trauma leaves an imprint, not only on your mind, but also on your body. And healing from that isn't always a straightforward process, but it is possible. That's the key takeaway. Healing is possible. So, where do we even begin? First off, I want to say that healing from trauma is different for everyone. There is no one-size-fits-all approach, but there are some practical steps that can guide you along the way. It starts with acknowledging the trauma. This might seem like a no-brainer, but the truth is, many people spend years pushing down or avoiding their trauma. They might numb it with distractions, substances, or even pretend it doesn't exist. But trauma has a way of showing up whether you want it to or not. So, the first step is giving yourself permission to feel it. You have to recognize that something happened, and it affected you. There's no shame in that. Trauma doesn't make you weak or broken. Acknowledging it is actually a sign of strength because it means you're ready to heal. Once you've allowed yourself to acknowledge the trauma, the next step is to find support. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. While it's easy to want to handle everything on your own, having a support system is crucial. This might be a therapist, a support group, or even just close friends and family who are there for you. Finding people who understand what you're going through, or who are at least willing to listen, is incredibly important. Trauma can make you feel isolated, like no one understands you or what you've been through, but reaching out and connecting with others can remind you that you're not alone. The simple act of sharing your story or your feelings with someone who listens can be incredibly healing in itself. Now, I know for some people, therapy might feel intimidating or out of reach for various reasons, but I want to encourage you to at least consider it. Therapy is not just about talking to someone. It's about having a trained professional who can guide you through the healing process with proven techniques and a deep understanding of trauma. If traditional talk therapy doesn't appeal to you, there are also alternative therapies like EMDR, movement desensitization and reprocessing, or somatic experiencing, which focus more on how trauma is stored in the body and work to release it. Speaking of the body, let's talk about the mind-body connection for a second. Trauma isn't just something that happens in your mind. It affects your entire nervous system. When you go through a traumatic event, your body goes into fight or flight mode, and sometimes it stays stuck in that mode even after the threat is gone. This is why things like yoga, mindfulness, and meditation can be so powerful in the healing process. They help you reconnect with your body, calm your nervous system, and ground yourself in the present moment. A lot of times, trauma survivors feel disconnected from their own bodies, so practices that bring you back into your body can be incredibly helpful. Let's also talk about boundaries. Trauma, especially when it involves relationships or abuse, often leads to a violation of your personal boundaries. Part of healing is learning to set and enforce healthy boundaries for yourself. This might mean learning to say no to people who drain you, or setting limits with family members or friends who may not understand what you're going through. It's okay to prioritize your healing, even if it means distancing yourself from people or situations that don't support your recovery. Your mental health comes first. Another important aspect of healing is allowing yourself time. Trauma recovery isn't something that happens overnight. There's no quick fix. It's a journey, and sometimes you'll feel like you're making great progress, and other times you might feel like you're back at square one. That's completely normal. Healing isn't linear. It's more like a spiral where you keep circling back to things, but each time with a little more understanding and strength. Be patient with yourself. Give yourself grace during this process. One of the biggest challenges for trauma survivors is learning how to be compassionate toward themselves, but that self-compassion is absolutely key. You wouldn't expect someone else to heal from a serious physical injury overnight, so don't expect that from yourself when it comes to emotional wounds. Journaling can be another helpful tool in your recovery. Writing down your thoughts and feelings can help you process what's going on inside. Sometimes, when things are spinning around in your head, it's hard to make sense of them, but putting them on paper can give you clarity. You can track your progress, notice patterns, and even look back and see how far you've come, which can be incredibly empowering. Another thing I want to mention is self-care. And I'm not just talking about bubble baths and face masks, though those are nice too. I'm talking about real, intentional self-care. This means listening to what your mind and body need and giving yourself permission to rest when you need it, to move your body when it feels right, and to eat foods that nourish you. It means taking care of your basic needs and recognizing that your well-being is a priority. Trauma often makes people feel like they have to constantly be on high alert, but self-care is about slowing down and giving yourself the space to breathe, to relax, and to just be. Let's also talk about the importance of reframing your narrative. Trauma can sometimes lead us to develop limiting beliefs about ourselves. You might feel broken, damaged, or unworthy because of what you've been through. But part of healing is learning to rewrite that narrative. Yes, something terrible happened, but it doesn't define who you are. You are not your trauma. You are a person who experienced trauma, and you are stronger and more resilient than you may realize. It's about shifting from being a victim of your circumstances to being a survivor and ultimately a thriver. Another key piece of advice is to focus on small victories. Sometimes when you're recovering from trauma, the big picture can feel overwhelming. But healing happens in small moments. When you feel a little bit lighter, when you can go a day without being triggered, or when you can face a situation that used to overwhelm you. Celebrate those moments. They matter and they add up. Progress is progress, no matter how small it may seem. Finally, I want to emphasize the importance of hope. It's easy to feel like trauma has taken over your life and that things will never get better. But healing is possible. You can move forward even if it feels impossible right now. There are countless people who have been where you are and have come out the other side stronger and more at peace than they ever thought they could be. Surround yourself with stories of hope, with people who uplift you, and with resources that inspire you to keep going. All right, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. I hope that some of these practical steps help guide you on your path to healing. Remember, this is your journey, and it's okay to take it one step at a time. Healing from trauma is possible, and you don't have to do it alone. Thank you so much for watching, and if you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Also, feel free to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.